Hello, and welcome to the Ladies Tale podcast.
I honestly didn't think we were going to have another Ladies Tale podcast for the longest time. And then we got a new actor.
Of course, we were going to have another Ladies Tale podcast. We were just going to do this thing. Like, we were just going to start being like, oh, this is a Ladies Tale podcast, although it makes no sense and doesn't go with it. We were just going to do it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Jade.
And I'm Winona. And it's funny. Well, while she was saying that, the reason I was thinking, I was like, oh, we're not going to get any more managers. And I was like, oh, wait, there are actors too in the world. And so
let's invite actors, which is really great. That's what our guest is about today. But first, we're going to talk about what we do a little bit, I guess.
Just
right?
a titch.
Right. So, in case y'all didn't know, we had our new book come out. And it's the Women's Cave and Other Pop Poetry, a Misfit Guide. And it actually debuted at number one. It was number one in poetry anthologies for a few days, which is like amazing on Amazon. So thank y'all.
Thank you so much.
And you went out and bought our book. Thank you.
And then number two, I just want to say I love those checks. So if you want to buy it again.
Probably not, but we thank you for buying it the first time. Yeah. So yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing.
No, because it comes in two different formats. I mean, you wanted an ebook and then you want it in paperback, and then I don't want the check.
They don't want it in that. All right, so yeah, so moving on.
We have two more books.
And I Thought Divorce Was Bad with Other Life Lessons, and I Thought Being Grown Up is Easy. Yeah, I mean, we have like more than 3 books, but you can check out all of that on www.andwethought.com. But y'all aren't here to hear about us. You're here for our wonderful guests.
Wonderful guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello there, I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm Thomas Carter Rochester. Hello, everyone. I am an actor, writer, musician, director, big bearded, beautiful baby boy.
Wow.
Okay.
He's a lot of things. He's a lot of things.
You're a musician.
Yes. I used to play heavy metal, thrash metal guitar, but now I write raps and I rap. I'm a rapper. I go by the name Tommy Tourettic because it's basically just letting my Tourette's not be in a box anymore, and it gets wild. Sometimes it's really good too.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
I'm trying to envision this.
Yes.
Like, do you
maybe
rap
that's why?
Thor as
maybe
well?
That's why he played Jinx so well.
Oh, that brings me to another question. But first, go ahead. Say what you were saying.
I do not rap as Thor. Rapping in that voice is really hard because I like to rap really fast. I like that, Homicide by Logic and Eminem kind of speed.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's hard. So for Thor, because you play Thor very well as an impersonator. How did that get started? I know we've asked this before, but I have to say, tell us again how it got started?
I started cosplaying around 17, made a Thor costume. It was, t-shirt and pants. And then as time went on, I let my engineering skills really blossom. And that turned into a really good version of the costume, which has continued to evolve like all things. They change is the only constant in life. But I started doing the voice in 2013, 2014, whenever the really, really bad Thor movie came out, The Dark World. Sorry, Marvel. It's just not that great. Thor does cool stuff, but he's written like a log. It is boring. And I've done improv about the same time, actually. I think I started improv. So in 2015, I did my first version of Thor videos as Thor. And it was Thor's movie reviews. And I actually think that Marvel Studios saw that and went, we should make Thor do improv, because my whole shtick, my gimmick is just me making fun of myself, but as Thor. And then they did that in the movies. And I was like, seriously, they need to stop watching my show or hire me to be a short Thor, because I'd take that check.
Oh, yeah. And we would be celebrating the fact that you had that check. Because we celebrate checks over here, not just our own, everyone's checks. If you're getting one, we're like, yeah, and we'll pop champagne for you.
That's good, because I don't like champagne.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
It's a weird. I don't know. I'm not a wine fan either. I just like grape juice, but I don't like wine. But I love beer, which doesn't make any sense because they're all basically just confabulation of beer and champagne and wine. They're all basically the same thing. I don't get it.
Huh.
Got weird taste buds.
I can't say anything because I'm not a fan of beer or wine, but I will drink both if they're available and there's nothing else. But I'm more of a bourbon and or scotch or whiskey. I'll take that too. But anyway, moving on from alcoholism on my end. I am a writer. I have to be an alcoholic. Come on now.
It's in the rule book.
Exactly. And depressing and self-depreciating. Those are like the top 3 things. You're not a true writer unless you're like 1, 2, and 3. So recently you played Jinx in our little script, The Managers.
Yes.
So I was wondering what you thought of the role, first of all.
Oh man, he's a dick. Jinx is, I read Jinx, I read through and I was like, oh, I totally get who Jinx is. He's me when I was in college. That's how I felt. I was like, I don't like this guy. Me and him would get in a fight. But then I'm like, that's because I fought myself a lot for like 7 to 10 years in college. So, but he's fun to play because there's nothing more fun to me than playing something that I am not in my everyday life. So, I try not to be a villain or a narcissist or sociopathic or a Sith or any of that stuff. But when it comes to playing them, I have a lot of just dark energy from my childhood that I'm like, I know how to do that. I know how to be this. I guess curmudgeon would be a good word to use because they all kind of are curmudgeons in their own way. How old am I using curmudgeon? Jesus. But I really enjoyed. I noticed that there's a mystery with him because he pops up for a moment in the beginning of the 3rd script, which is present day. And he's talking to Angel off the top of my head, I think. And then there's a whole thing going on. And I'm like, oh, that's a direct foreshadow for the rest of the episode. But what is it all leading to? So I'm like, I love riddles and I love mysteries and I like figuring them out.
Oh, that's great because I originally was a mystery writer. So it works out pretty nice when I'm writing episodes. I'm like, ooh, no, this should happen now for plot way down the road. I'm not as good as the Doctor Who director, and I can't remember his name. Moffat. I'm not as good as Moffat because Moffat can do it. I mean, he can set up a beautiful series arc. Not necessarily land it, but set it up beautifully. Anyway.
Just like J.J. Abrams. Sorry, J.J. It was an easy joke.
That is so true. Well, that's rude. I shouldn't be talking about people because I'm not big enough to talk about these folks. Nowhere close to big enough to talk about these
We
folks.
are fans of the material and we are just recognizing the trends of the Force. Again, Star Wars.
Okay, so before we go any further, and I believe we're going to have to first of all talk about why you are seeing everything in like Star Wars kind of language, why your world is now heavily tinted with Star Wars. What have you been listening to lately?
I have listened to, I believe it is now 9 audiobooks of Star Wars since September 1st. Which, oh my gosh, that explains so much. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I have been since I was 7, and my dad sat me down with the original cut of the original trilogy where Han shot first. I'm that guy. I'm definitely that guy. But ever since then, I've been a huge Star Wars fan. My second tattoo ever was actually a Sith tattoo on my ribs because, like I said, it's fun playing the bad guy. That ended up leading to copious amounts of things of world building in my mind and being able to pull threads of stories across like 70 to 80 years if you just read through history and go, oh, that's going to happen again in like probably about 2 years from now. And I have listened to Queen's Peril and Queen's Shadow by E.K. Johnston, Master and Apprentice, which is about Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn, Dooku, Jedi Lost, Dark Lords of the Sith. That was fun. That was Vader at like the height of his power. It was awesome. Then I listened to Kenobi. I'm missing one in my brain before I got to the Bane series. It is what it is, which is not technically quote unquote canon. However, I learned so much about Tusken Raiders in that. And then I finished it right before Mandalorian episode 1, season 2 started. And so when they were all hanging out with the Tuskens and then the crate dragon shows up, spoilers if you haven't seen that, sorry folks, but the crate dragon is like right after that, I listened to the rest of the book. I think I had a chapter left, and the crate dragon was killed by Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I was like, what? This is crazy. Yeah. And then I just listened to the Darth Bane trilogy, which is set 1,000 years before Palpatine rose to power. And it started the Rule of Two.
Oh. Huh. This is interesting. I need to go further into the Star Wars canon, apparently, because there's just a lot going on that I just don't know anything about. Okay, thank you.
There is so much. Did you watch the new Mandalorian episode yesterday?
No. I normally wait a couple of days and then I watch it. I make myself watch something I didn't want to see for like the purpose of like, hey, you need to know about this if you want to write either this part in your book or this part in your script. So I'm like, I need to watch this, and then I can treat myself and watch The Mandalorian. But yeah, I try not to do it. Yeah, because normally on the weekends I kind of like just chill and like work on like small things and try to leave them for like family and stuff. And since I'm gonna watch it after I do something that's useful, it doesn't happen until Monday or Tuesday. And then of course I immediately go over to find out how Thor explains The Mandalorian from Fit Thomas's Facebook page. Okay, you also do a podcast. Can you tell us a bit about your podcast?
Yes, Lights, Thunder, Action podcast. We've been going for 6 months now, and we talk all things movies, comics. We stay within our zeitgeist. David, my co-host, David Thompson, he's an educated journalist, graduated with his bachelor's this past summer of 2020 while sitting at home. He graduated virtually, which was sad.
Nice.
But he and we used to work together at a gym in college, and we would always talk Marvel, DC, Star Wars. All are both major movie fans. We would go pick random movies when we had AMC A-list together, and we'd go see movies. So we've been doing that. Currently, we are reviewing Mando every week. Our shows are now Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to listen to what else we've done, we have the Trilogy of Trilogies, where we would watch a movie from a trilogy, or we'd watch trilogies and review them. We also cover the news because, as I said, David is a journalist. He wants to be in the news. So he brings us all the news stories and updates the world about the very important news of what's going on in movies and comic book films.
Wow. You know a lot.
Yeah, man. Seriously.
Wow. He knows a lot about films. And okay, so I'm sorry. I have to ask my 2 narcissism questions, and then we can talk about anything else you would like to speak about. But number 1, what would you like to see happen with your character? And then number 2, what would you like to see happen in the story?
Yes. So I want
Star Wars.
Well, that's not happened yet. So speak it into existence. I want to see Jinx. I don't know why, but I really want to see him die. I feel like that would be tragic for everybody. Wow. Like, I don't know why, but that's the first. Maybe it's because I enjoy dying in movies, like in roles that I've done. But also, he does seem like he has some backroom dealings that he does. So there seems to be an edge and a bit of danger, which I think is why Swa's interested in him. I think that's the only thing she finds interesting about him, is like, well, he is a bad boy. And what was the second question? I already forgot.
What would you like to see happen in the story overall with the characters?
I want to know what the hell's going on with Swa and Ronald McDonald, because I am like, what's going on in this relationship? I'm so confused. because that is so not how I live life that I'm just like, I don't understand anything that's going on with it. Having kids, not for me. I don't have kids. Well, I have a baby Yoda, but that's not alive, so I don't have to feed it, thankfully. And then also, like, I'm also not in a relationship, and I am not married, so I'm just confused as what's going on and the rules of their engagement. I want to find out what's happening there. That's the big mystery to me, and I love mysteries.
I think everyone, when they first as a new actor comes onto the script, the first thing they go is Ronald and Swa.
What?
And I'm like, I didn't think it was going to be one of the bigger secrets, but I didn't think it was going to be one of the biggest secrets. But apparently, it is. And
apparently, you buried it so far down that no one, like, we say it, and I guess no one like heard it.
Yeah. I love the fact, first of all, that you picked up about Jinx being in the first part of that episode.
Thank you for that. Because it feels like no one else heard it. Like, they were like, so what's Jinx doing? And we're like, didn't you hear the beginning? Like, come on.
There's something on there.
I definitely think I noticed because I read through the script, and by the time I'd gotten to the end, it said present day. And I was like, present day? Wait, was that whole thing a flashback? And I had to go back to the beginning and start reading again. And I was like, where does the flashback start? And I read fast and I missed it again. I was like, hold on, no. This is part of the flashback, has to be, because it doesn't tie in with whatever Sean's talking about. So I went back and I was like, oh, look at that. I totally didn't recognize that my first line as Jinx is in present day. And I was like, what is he doing? What? I can't say that. Who is he curmudgeoning?
There you go.
Oh,
okay, second the word, y'all.
I feel like it.
I know.
I'm letting my gray patch, show itself today with the wisdom words.
Like,
so would you dye it in there? You would like, you look gray.
I found it this week, and I thought it was a couple hairs, because at first I also thought it was paint in my beard, because I've been painting with white paint. So I was like, it could just be paint. And then I looked and I was like, is that a bunch of hairs? And I flaked through my beard, and it's like, it's like a patch that is a little less hairy than the rest, and I'm confused. And B, there's like 7 to 15 gray hairs just sitting there, and they're currently like this long. So when I brush my beard the right way, it's like, hey, what's up with your salt and pepper? And I'm like, I don't know. Stress.
It seems like
it's 2020.
Yeah.
You should have asked them, like, where's your gray hair? It's 2020. Everyone has gray.
We know you're dying at this point. We know you're dying.
We know it, because everyone has like 1 or 2 little daggone gray hairs, because we were all a little concerned for our health. We're all just a little concerned.
Exactly. Okay, those were my 2 big questions. And okay.
Yeah. Okay, so since you do all of these things, and you are a screenwriter, and you do all of these things, do you ever think you're going to join us in being an author one day?
Oh, yeah.
Probably not. I mean, I think of myself, I have trouble when it comes down to sitting down and actually doing the writing. I get frustrated because public education ruined writing for me, because I used to love writing. I mean, also I love improv. So when I write, I'm basically improving while I write, I'm gonna say, which can be very dangerous and can lead to really bad grades, because you make an argument that they disagree with politically. Thanks for that, college. However, I also tend to write in jokes, so it gets me by. But when it comes to, I can write dialogue well, and I can describe things. But when it comes to putting together like a whole book, yeesh. I don't think I hate myself enough to force myself to write that much.
Okay, so I was going to say one thing. Why don't you have a book of short stories, first and foremost?
Oh.
And that would be fun, because you can have a bunch of jokes and a bunch of different things. You can name it something fun.
There you go.
Something Fun by Thomas Carter Rochester. That's the title.
Oh, there it is.
Something That's the fun. Title. That's it. Because I would never come up with anything better. What is your book about? I don't know. Something fun. Read it.
Right. And then you can just talk about, like, and your authors, you could just definitely say, So yeah, this is gonna be a book of something fun, right? We're gonna have lots of jokes, we're gonna have lots of laughs, and yeah, that's it. Something fun.
And if you don't have fun, clearly you're not living life properly.
Correct.
There you are. So yay, I think maybe I've made an author out of him yet.
Well, Thomas, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out today. And I'm over my 20 minutes that I promised I'd only use, like a whole 8 minutes over.
Oh yeah, sorry, that's me. I talk a lot.
That's fine. I talk a lot. You should see our podcast. It's like 2 hours long all the time.
Oh yeah, it is. It is. I only get like.
But it's still really fun. So we got to break it up, obviously.
Definitely.
Yeah, but it's still super fun. Where can people check out your podcast and find out more about you and your IMDb page, maybe?
Yes. So you can find me on Facebook at Thomas Carter Rochester -actor, at Thomas Carter Rochester, all one word, no hyphens, no spaces, on Instagram at TC Rochester Act. That is TC Rochester, TC ROCHESTERACT on the Twitter. My YouTube channel is Life of Thor. You might not find it. I don't have enough subscribers to pop up in their algorithm. But if you look for Thor Watches the Mandalorian, I can guarantee you'll find it. Lights, Thunder, Action, my podcast. You can find us on Facebook at Lights, Thunder, Action. Is a show after that? Ooh, I should know that. I don't know that. You can just Google or on Facebook, Lights, Thunder, Action Show. It'll pop up. It is LTA Podcasting. That is an ING at the end for Twitter, and at Lights, Thunder, Action, all one word, no hyphens, no spaces, for Instagram. And we have a YouTube channel where we post short and sometimes slightly long clips of what we think is the funniest stuff on our YouTube channel of Lights, Thunder, Action, !
Ooh, exclamation.
Yeah. So that's where I'm going to start. The exclamation point.
Exclamation point.
Well, thank you so much, Thomas, for being with us today and for talking about my boring script, but I thoroughly enjoy it.
Definitely not a boring script. It was enticing.
Yeah, and thank you for getting the
little bookend.
Thank you.
Yes, I understand bookends. My whole life is the bookend. I wake up, I wake up and then I go to bed, and everything between those two things is a giant mystery as to what happens. Those are the only two things I can guarantee I do every day.
I love chatting with you. You make life feel normal, and in the script it's feel normal. I love it. I'm loving it
very much. All right, so you can find out everything your ladies are doing on www.andwethought.com. And while you're there, just check out everything we have, and check out especially the charities, and do what you can for them.
Wow, I'm loving the ending to that.
Do what you can.
Oh my goodness, it was so short and brief. I barely knew what to do.
I know Jay ran out of energy, y'all. I was like, oh, the coffee is gone. Dang it, I should have had another cup of coffee.
So I'm gonna try another ending for the Ladies' Tale. So we're gonna go with the Ladies' Tale podcast, and we're gonna tell everyone out there to live a life worth writing on the page. That's where I'm going. How you feel about this?
Okay, sure. I was just like, we might just take the women's cave and just put that ending on it. You know what? Why not? Because we are us.
All right. So in the comments or whatever, tell me what you think will be best. Just moving the women's cave over one. I still love Live a Life That's Worth Writing on the Page.
So maybe we'll
live a life that's worth writing on the page.
Unless you're Thomas, and obviously he's not going to do
He has a book end.
Yeah. Well, I live the life. I just don't write it on the page.
Okay, sure. I love it. And that's where we should end our show. Bye, y'all. Thanks for listening.
Bye.